I know I'm not the only one that has spent hours of cleaning, decluttering, organizing, creating routines, schedules, systems, but somehow having my house go back to exactly the same mess as it was before. And for the longest time, I would blame my kids for this, my husband, everybody else in every other circumstance, until I started noticing a pattern. Started noticing that I was also cleaning up not just my husband's mess, not just my kids' mess, but a lot of the time I was spending time cleaning up the mess that I had made. And because so many of you point out how very similar you are to me, I know I'm not the only one. So today I'm going to be talking about the tiny little unnoticeable habits that you do every single day that are causing you to have a cluttered and messy home. The very first habit is setting things near where they need to be. So you're putting things almost where they belong, but not quite. So you're setting your laundry next to the laundry basket. You're putting your makeup next to your makeup bin. You're putting your clothes next to your dresser. So you're almost making it to where it belongs, but you're this close, and that is leading to clutter. So because you're setting things near where they belong, you may tell yourself like, well, that's good enough, but you're not taking that extra tiny step to put items away back to where they actually belong. And what you're doing is you're causing clutter and making it look messier, and you're also adding in an extra step for you. The second thing is folding your laundry on the couch. I know, what better space? There's plenty of room. It's soft, it's not on the floor. But at the end of the day, if you didn't take the time to put that laundry away, you know you're going to bed with that laundry all over your couch, because you don't need to sleep on the couch. So what's another day or two or three, or until it gets jumbled by the kids, gets back on the floor, and needs to be rewashed. I have since started folding my laundry on the bed. Is it annoying at the end of the night when I go to bed and the laundry is still there and I have to put it away? Yes, but that's a tactic that works for me. So no matter if I started folding my laundry at 8 a.m. in the morning and I don't get to finishing it till 9 p.m., 10 p.m., because it's on my bed, I need to use my bed. I'm not going to waste all the work that I did by throwing the laundry on the floor or back in the hamper. So I'm going to take the extra 5 minutes that I need to go put those clothes into their designated spaces. Okay, this next one I used to do a lot, and that's buying organizers before you declutter a space. So if you have a project in mind and you want to organize a pantry, an office, a room, and you have a dream and a vision of what you want that space to look like, so you go to Walmart, the Container Store, IKEA, and you buy beautiful organizers for what you already have. But what you're doing is you're really buying containers for clutter. Instead, you want to organize that space first, declutter it, because majority of that stuff that's in there probably shouldn't even be there. Maybe there's a portion where you can get rid of, donate, so that when you are ready to go buy those organizer bins, you're only buying for what you need and you're using it for the space that you need. Because the trap is to go and buy the containers for what you already have before you declutter, and what that's going to do is you're just simply creating more clutter, because at the end of the day, you're going to have way more bins than you need, and it's going to create more clutter and mess. Okay, if you've been guilty of this next one, and I know a lot of you have, leave me a thumbs up on this video, but that's keeping almost useful items. These are things that almost work for you, almost for your season, almost fixable, almost wearable, eventually will fit, one day I'll fix. So they may not work for you right now, but you have a hope that one day this item is going to be usable to you. Get rid of it. Don't even think about it. Just don't even like mentally, emotionally think about this item. If you can't use it in this current season or within the next 6 months, for sure, you know that you're going to be able to fit into those jeans in 6 months. You're going to be able to use that item that's broken. You're going to buy a replacement part. If you know that, go ahead and keep that item. But if you don't know if you're going to lose that weight in 6 months, if you're going to be able to find that part, if you're going to be able to fix that item, just donate it, get rid of it, and you can reevaluate what you need when you finally get to the stage that you want to be at. All right, the next tiny habit is in fact tiny, and that's ignoring micro-clutter. Micro-clutter is anything that seems insignificant. So little things like bobby pins, rubber bands, paper clips, staples. It's not something that's huge or noticeable, but it either fits in a drawer, in a box, but every time you look at it, it appears to be seemingly invisible. Maybe it's in a drawer, in a cabinet, it's tucked away somewhere, and maybe nobody even notices, but when you look at it, it drains you. My recommendation is not to organize into micro categories. So if you do have things like rubber bands, staples, paper clips, instead of organizing them in those tiny little categories, organize them in a general office supply category. And that way, in that office supply category, you can have those Pens, pencils, erasers, paper clips, staples, anything office related can go there, and you're not going to be overwhelmed by having to micro organize, but you're not going to have micro clutter. All right, this next one is probably a challenge for a lot of busy moms that are multitasking, but it's telling yourself
that it'll only take a sec.
And what I mean by that is if you're in the middle of a cleaning project, putting something away, laundry, whatever it is, if you're in the middle of putting something back into its proper place, you stop and you get distracted by something and you say to yourself, it'll only take a sec, and you put that item down where it doesn't belong, because then you're distracted, you never actually come back to that item, and somehow that item is misplaced out of its home and it ends up being a mess that you have to clean up later. All right, keeping items for a better or future you. Well, I've always imagined that I would be cooking these elaborate restaurant quality meals for my family, and so I have so many cookbooks with beautiful recipes and inspiration. But have I used them? Maybe once a year, maybe twice a year. The rest of the time, I have a meal formula that I follow with a protein, a starch, veggie, and that's basically what we eat unless I come up with a spontaneous meal plan or recipe. But keeping things like recipes for when I have the time, keeping clothing, like I mentioned, when I lose the weight, or keeping things like books for when I have the time to read it. Not only are you putting yourself in a state of guilt because you haven't reached where you want to be, and having those items around is a constant reminder, but you're also taking up space in your home for things that you're not using in your current stage of life. All right, let's talk about the dishwasher. This one will bite you in the butt, and it happens to me every single time that I do this. If you don't empty your dishwasher in the morning and you delay it over and over to the point to where now it's evening time and you have a sink full of dirty dishes from the day, but your dishwasher isn't empty and it's full of clean dishes, do you think I want to do double the work of emptying the dishwasher, putting everything away, and then reloading it back up again? It is such a daunting task at the end of the day to do a double job. Anytime that I don't empty the dishwasher in the morning, it creates a ripple effect for me in the evening. So it feels like I'm doing double the work. Whereas as part of my loop that I talk about, I empty my dishwasher every single morning, or at least I try to. And when I do that, it takes me 5 to 10 minutes max. And then throughout the day, I have an empty dishwasher where I'm just loading in dirty dishes as I go. So at the end of the night after dinner, I don't have this massive sink full of dishes that takes me like 30 minutes to clean and to load, and it's not something I want to do when I'm tired. I would like to introduce you to the 9th habit that keeps your home cluttered and messy. This is my figure it out later bin, and what this is a bin of cords, of wires, of chargers that I'm gonna figure out eventually. Do I know where this charger's from? No. Do I know where this wire is from or what it's for? No. But I stick it in this bin and I tell myself I'm going to figure it out. Well, 3, 4, 7, 10 years later, some of these things are probably vintage at this point. I'm not going to figure it out. This is a habit that needs to go. If I don't know where this is from, I can't figure it out in say the next week or two, I'm just gonna let it go, because the reality is if by mistake I really did throw out a wire that's important, Amazon exists, Best Buy exists, the beauty of Walmart delivery exists. If I really, really need that wire, I can probably buy it for cheaper than it's costing me to store this in my home. Okay, I have a stair parking lot every single evening. It doesn't look great, but there are ways to combat this, because I'm not against a stair parking lot, because what this is a catch-all zone for me, so that at the end of the night, as I'm closing up shop, I can take those items upstairs. But there is a proper way of doing this and holding those items. I have a basket that I got from the Dollar Tree that I keep at the base of my stairs, and throughout the day, I'll throw things in there, and at the end of the night, I will take them upstairs. Now, whether I put them back in their proper places or not, that is questionable, but I will take it off of the stairs so that Stairway parking lot can become available to use for the next day, but also it's not harboring clutter for days on end. All right, tiny habit number 11 is letting your laundry touch the floor. Don't let it, I don't know why, but my kids really struggle with this one. There's a basket right there in that corner, and the pile of laundry will be right next to that lovely laundry basket. I don't get it, but it's basically not letting your laundry touch the floor. And I know this is a habit that can be quite daunting, and also it can be tempting at the end of the night to just take off your clothes, put them next to your bed and say, I'll wear that later, even though in reality, you're never gonna touch those socks and those pants again until you wash them. So instead of letting your laundry touch the floor, let it go in the basket straight away. It's better that it gets washed in extra time versus, again, sitting on the floor, collecting dust where it's just going to need to be washed anyways, but you spent all that time looking at that clutter. The 12th tiny habit is believing that if it's hidden, then it's fine. I have lived by this principle for many years. If it was hidden, if it was in a drawer, in a cabinet, if guests couldn't see it when they walked in, it was none of my business, okay? But reality says that when you go to open up that drawer, when you go to open up the cabinet or your family, if stuff is falling out, it's your problem. And so stopping the belief that if it's hidden clutter, it doesn't exist is going to help you navigate a decluttering schedule, a cleaning schedule, and a routine that's going to help minimize the clutter. I don't know why, but for some reason, even though I love having sentimental items and I don't think there's anything wrong with it, having sentimental items in random places all over your home is what's causing it to look like it's cluttered and messy. Even if you have every intention of keeping those sentimental photos, memories, crafts, whatever it may be, gifts, it's totally fine to keep those items, but designate a special area where you're going to store those sentimental items. That way you're not opening up a random drawer, a cupboard, or maybe some kind of file folder and finding these things scattered all over your home. Have a home for these items. It's totally okay to keep these sentimental items. Just give them a proper home. Okay, number 14, I already kind of mentioned it in the I'll figure it out later category, but this one deserves its own little category, and this is tech accessories. So chargers, cables, wires, things that you're not exactly sure what they go to, but all of these tech accessories like old laptops, old phones. I have like so many old broken iPads and phones that I don't even know what to do with, but something in the back of my mind is saying, keep them. What if somebody discovers them and, pulls personal data? There are safe ways to dispose of your old electronics and not keeping around all of those old accessories unless it's like the very first model of the iPhone, which is now worth like a ton of money apparently. But if it's something that's like an old iPad, old phones that you're no longer using, or you can't even pass them down to your kids, get rid of them. And the last tiny little habit that's causing clutter is actually so huge and impactful, but it's having more than one drop zone in your home. Now, I believe in drop zones and catch-alls, whether it's at the bottom of your stairs or when you first come into your home, a bowl for your keys, your wallet, but having a lot of drop zones in your home is going to make it look like you have a lot of clutter. I personally recommend having no more than one drop zone per like zone in your home. So like your kitchen and your living room can have a drop zone, the upstairs can have a drop zone, and maybe like the entryway or the mudroom can have a drop zone. But if you're going to have a drop zone in the living room, another one in the kitchen, another one in the bathroom, another one in the bedroom, what you're going to do is you're just going to create tiny little piles of clutter absolutely everywhere. When I started noticing these little patterns that I was doing, they were such tiny little habits, but they were leading to such a huge mess that I was constantly cleaning up after. However, now that I'm aware of them, I am cognitively thinking about this instead of putting things on the floor, putting them away, creating different drop zones, making sure that I am aware of all the little tiny things that I do throughout the day, that when evening comes, I don't have a huge mess to clean up. Let me know if you have any tiny habits that you've noticed that you do that cause declutter and disorganization in your home. I would love to see if that's something that maybe I do that I don't even notice. As always, thank you guys so much for watching, subscribing, and liking. I'll see you guys in my next one.